Oh my god, your
I
face.
miss you.
It feels like a month has gone by, but it's been only 2 weeks.
I know. It still feels, you know how you were talking about it just felt like a fever dream? It really does. It felt like I just like took a really like nice long nap and I'm just like, but I want to go back. I want to go back. Yeah.
But I feel you're so grounded.
I feel really good. Like I mean, again, I'm just kind of going through the motions, I guess. Is what it is. Maybe that was kind of like doing that leg workout in those ways when they were kind of hiding in.
And they started like pushing against you, and the lifeguard started looking at us.
I know. You know, that's Ashley looked over. She's like, I just love how resilient you are. I was like, nobody else does this. Like they just stand when the waves come, you know, just like trying. But yeah, I guess that's me.
I'm gonna put on some oil before we start.
You do that, boo. What are you using?
Maka's Fire.
Yes.
We were just talking about her.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole with Gwen and Omar. We had our first meeting, I believe 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks. Yeah.
So when this is posted, it'll be like a month, I think.
Around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
But regardless, like we met for the first time and it was like, you know, it wasn't weird. It wasn't like awkward. There wasn't this like feeling of, oh, should I say something? Or am I not talking enough? Or like, am I talking too much? It was very like, we were on the same frequency. We were very in sync. And not to mention how like, I do believe someone else that was there with us that weekend had mentioned like, you guys are acting like a married couple. And I was like, I mean, kinda, but really, this is just sibling behavior, to be honest. Like when you're that close to somebody, like, it just automatically like
yeah and I think because like since we had like we had the first awesome day when we met and then came back, what was it, that Friday and spent the night with us with all the gals, and then we had our beach day Saturday, like and I left Sunday, so I was already kind of like, I felt like I had so much time, but now it's like it just feels like the sands through the hourglass. It's just going.
Speaking of hourglass, the sands of time. How Saturnian.
Yes, yeah. Well, isn't that Capricorn very Saturnian? I guess. Yeah, that's very me.
Or we could also just place it as like representative of like, I'm late for a very important date.
Yes, we are. You know, that's the one thing with the time. I was like, I know we put that on the agenda. We didn't do the recording, but I'm glad it worked out the way that it did, because it was like us, just all of us being present and yeah.
No, I mean, again, although it was only like a couple of days, it felt like a day and a half. And like viewers might be asking like, how is that? Well, to be honest, like we have done like so many things on, like it was like going 3 steps forward and then 1 step back and then just doing things all at once, and then just like being so immensely grounded in the present moment that we were like taking in like so much, and just being each other's presence. And not to mention how like when you went back, I mean, I remember I left like I got home like Sunday morning around like 5 a.m. But
Yes,
that's besides the point. Like, I was like, I need to stay here as long as I need to. This is my sister that I've known through lifetimes.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was so nice, and like it's so gone now. But I mean, at least we had the opportunity to like. I mean, first of all, who can say that they've made a friendship over the internet and then fast forward like 6 months later, y'all were meeting, you know?
And it's like time hadn't like really gone anywhere. I mean, it's like the stunt of like, oh my gosh, this is like the person like in like the flesh suit, you know, it's not like the computer screen or the phone. But yeah, it was cool. And then once we kind of like get past that, it's just like we're just picking up where we left off, you know. But we're still excited. It's like, I'm excited. But anyway.
No, I mean, again, I was excited only because I got to feel your earthy Capricornness, because let me tell you, Gwen is exudes like this. The way I see like the earth signs is that like Virgo is like quicksand or like sand, and it's very mutable and very like conform to any container. But when I think of like Capricorn, I think of mountains, I think of like rocks, something very stable. And I think of like Taurus as being like, you know, water and mud, just very cool, but it still has an earthy element. But when I first met you, like in person, I was like, all right, like I've always known that you were strong, but also like this Capricorn groundedness. I'm like, all right, okay, cool. And I could tell like plenty of times where we were together, we would like give each other the eye of like, I'm communicating. And you're like, oh, I'm communicating with you too. It was very easy. It felt, I mean, again, it felt easy to get to know you. It felt easier to like, you know, walk this direction, walk that direction, and also just split up, come back together, split up and come back together. And ultimately we came back together, and we're back together right now.
Yes, we are. Yeah, no, it was an awesome experience. So I'm glad like how spirit made that happen. And like, I knew I was meant to be there, and yeah. And I want to go back. I already want to pack my bags, and I already want to go back.
We've also discussed that I will be making a visit to Texas soon because I miss my sister. And y'all, whoever's listening, if y'all want to go on a trip with me, you know what? Maybe perhaps since we didn't have the opportunity to record when you came to visit, we might even have a surprise like episode when I do come down and see y'all.
Yeah.
And maybe even post like a vlog of some sort, being like, look, this is our day. Woo.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. And like you experiencing like, which will bring me up to the next topic of maybe what we're trailing into today. But it'd be, and you and I've talked about this because I didn't make it to go like see the celebrity sightings like out in LA or anything. But like it would be really nice to like see vice versa. But everybody was seeing me experiencing where we were out in Long Beach, and then driving out to I guess it would be Laguna, right? Is Orange. And I mean, it's kind of like a kid like experiencing things for the first time. So, you know, I got to see like, you know, the hills and like the mountains, which I mean, we have hills here in some parts of Texas, but it was just like, it was amazing. And I want to go back. I think part of me has like lived in California at some point. But yeah, but it was really awesome to like experience it with you guys and like see me experience things for the first time, and then just being really chill about it. It's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, guys, I'm new. I don't know. Because there was that hesitation of like being like starting like pre-kinder, you know, you're going into class with the other kids and being like, are they gonna like me? Are they gonna make friends? Yes, I wasn't worried about that, but like experiencing those things for like the first time. So like show me around. Like I didn't come, my only agenda was meeting you guys and Yeah, so it was fantastic getting to meet you, and Kelly was a gracious host, and meeting Miss Amanda and Miss Ashley. I don't know if they watched the show, but and we have Miss Jess too. So yeah,
It was
so it was really
it
cool.
was a magical time, and
Don't cry.
girl, I've been feeling emotional all day, but that's besides the point. We're here now.
Yes, so it would be cool for you to experience what I am accustomed to here in Houston. And taking like the places I haven't like really been to in a while. And you and I've talked about like, well, depending what time you come, like what would be really cool to like venture out and go see. And so I mentioned like some museums, and then we have like the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo like between like February and March, because cook-off starts, it's like right after like Mardi Gras and stuff. And so I don't know why I mentioned to you about like we have a few malls, right? It's not anything. I mean, everybody has a mall, but we have Houston Galleria. And I was like, well, it'd be kind of a nice place to show Omar and tell him like the places where I used to work. Some of the shops are still standing, some are not. But for him to kind of like experience like, what's out there, and I have a couple friends that do work in a couple of the shops there. And so last night, I felt very inclined to speak to Omar today, and we knew we were recording, but I asked him like, hey, were you tired? Like out of nowhere, like, hey, did you wake up like tired this morning? He's like, yeah. So I was telling him that I believe that we were dreaming together. And what I remember is I know I may be driving the car, but we end up on Westheimer, which is where the Houston Galleria is, and you hit it like from a side curb, but like a side turn, but there's a couple like streets because it's such a big mall. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember parking the car in this dream, but I remember you and I walking through like the different levels of this mall because it's huge. And now that I'm thinking about it, I've had another dream where I feel like that's all I was doing was just like walking through like different levels of like certain stores or like the mall. But it's so weird because it's kind of like everything's kind of like shutting off in my other dream. But this one, you and I are just walking, and I turned to you and I was like, Omar, didn't you tell me like you've been here before? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, now I kind of feel bad that I brought you here.
But I was like, I'm just down for the ride. I just want to be with you.
You totally were. So this is the epiphany of like with Alice and the White Rabbit. So here we are like walking through, and you pull me into some store I can't even remember. And you tell me that you are walking into this specific store because the last time that you were here, you had a very nice and intriguing conversation with some beautiful ginger that was working there.
Go on.
So it looked like the store was actually closing. Like all the other stores were open, but for apparently this one, it was going to close. And so you were just like, I was like, well, Omar, they're about to close. And you're like, yeah, you're right. And then you just got like this big bolt of like confidence, and you're like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to open the door and I'm going to ask the question and check to see if this person's still here. Apparently you have the name. I don't even know who you were looking for. But somebody comes like around the corner and the lights are off in like the store, and the guy is like, oh no, he's not here. And like, but he'll be here like tomorrow or something. You're like, okay. And you're like, wow, after all this time that I haven't been here, like he's still here.
I'm not gonna, okay. this sounds very something that I would do or say, because my friends hate that like I do this all the time, but whenever I'm out at an area where people know me, they're like, "Oh great, like let's get ready for the oh my god, hello, hi." Just like being a mayor of like whatever city and being taking pictures, kissing babies. Hi, oh my god. But to be honest, the way you had phrased it was something that I guess I would do, because I know that like, oh wow, don't we know 4 years ago, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nice to see you. Bye-bye. I don't know who you are very well, but I remember this one interaction we had years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was it, but it seemed like it was like something like very karmic, but it's almost kind of like the Wizard of Oz, where like they're off to see the wizard, and and they're trying to get there to go see him,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just following along with you, and it was like there was like this disappointment that he wasn't there, but at the same time you were just like, well, if it was meant to be and meant to be, he'd be here, that kind of thing. So yeah, but it just had my wheels turning all this morning, so I was trying to like remember everything, and like I think we even like walked into like a Dillard's or something somewhere, and I was like, "Ooh, Omar, this print's like really pretty on this underwear," like. And then I woke up and that was that. And so I mean, I knew we were having the podcast today. And I mean, I was trying to like pay attention as much as I could from the details. I knew where we were exactly. And yeah, and I just felt like, I mean, granted, I was going to tell you anyway, but for me to ask you specifically, like, did you wake up tired? And again, I pay attention to synchronicities because that's just how they happen. But anywho,
I remember waking up this morning feeling like I woke up. Also, I think one tidbit of information that we did leave out was that you and I had actually fallen asleep around the same time.
yes,
And
yes.
so I was like, no, I believe you. Well, I was there. I woke up this morning feeling like, all right, get up. You have to get up now. That moment of like, it's a very deciding moment of whether or not you press, the alarm on your phone to snooze or to actually rise and start your day. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And so I got up and I was like, kind of still tired, even though I'm like dressed and I'm like, I've drunk my coffee and I'm like going to work. And now I'm like, so many thoughts. But nonetheless, I did feel like, I guess the segue into our topic right now is astral travel. And the best way I could put it was that, like, when I had woken up, I don't know, perhaps the way that I would describe this feeling is when I'm astral traveling, I tend to, not that like I want to go back to sleep. I've already gotten enough rest, but there's this feeling that, like, no, I still need to go back there. I need to stay there. I want to go there. I don't want to come back yet. I still have information, or I still need to talk to that person right now. I'm hanging out with this person, or I'm like traveling with this person right now, so I need to talk to them. And I don't want to wake up, because if I wake up, then it's all gone. And I guess it's what you would call dream work. But I mean, even segueing to our main topic for today's episode is astral travel, and how we do it, how we unconsciously do it, and how we consciously do it. Gwen and I are different travelers. I tend to astral travel quite a bit, to the extent where if I have someone in mind the night before, like, oh, I'm thinking of this person. Oh, like for even instance, like I call you, right? And you didn't answer the phone, and I'm like, oh, that's fine. I'm gonna make the intent of traveling with her or having a conversation. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but this week in particular, we haven't spoken. Not that we've been upset at each other, but we haven't talked. We've been so busy.
Yeah. No, Omar and I were kind of like trying to figure out like topics to cover. We talked last week, a little bit this week, but not as much as we normally do. But we're trying to cover a topic for this week, and astral travel came up as part of like what more people would like to know, like as far as our insight about. And I told Omar, I don't really know if I've astrally projected or not. I have had dreams where it does feel like I have traveled either back in time or forward, which I deem it as deja vu. And I do pick up on dreams we dream all the time. When people say they don't dream, they are dreaming. It's just sometimes we don't remember. I have a lot of the dreams that I don't remember. But if I am really in that state of like, man, this dream is like something else, I am paying attention, because it's not something that that happens so often. So I do try to remember and dream journal and write it down. But I guess I wouldn't even know if I astral projected or not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of the times I've had dreams to where, like for example, I came back from the trip, and the day after, my husband came in and he said, unfortunately, one of our cats, he's very much the predator. Okay. I think you remember where I'm going with this. So there was a lot of work that was done, and I was kind of finding that signs from spirit. And so for being the witch I am, I'm still honoring nature. So it's just the way that life is as a beast. So my cat is very predatorial. And we have a lot of mockingbirds, a lot of birds actually that are around our house. We have finches, which George sometimes speaks with finches. He'll send little finch birds. We do have some crows, not a whole murder, but we do have some crows. And then the mockingbirds are always the ones that are kind of like hanging out. They do like kind of terrorizing one of our other cats, but the other one, like, he's like, no. So I guess at night, because they are indoor outdoor, he grabs one of them and he left the wings. So I told Omar I have 2 mockingbird wings and I still have some feathers. So they're going through like that salt treatment to get the mites off and other disease, just to get them treated. So when I looked over, because my husband, when he brought the feathers in, he's like, hey, the wings are outside. He's like, do you want them? I was like, yeah, because at least I can honor the bird in another way, so it fulfills the purpose. And so he's like, okay. So I had the feathers with the salt on a plate, which was not a whole lot. And then when he brings both sets of wings in, I look over and I have this flash of like this, I saw this happen, and I haven't had like a flash of deja vu in a very long time, where it just kind of like offset me a bit, where it was like, I dreamt of this happening, but this has been like months and months ago, and then here it is now, so that's as far as I travel.
No, but like when we met, I had a moment while we were like, we had a bonfire, and I had a moment where I was like, we've been here before. And you were like so unfazed, like, oh no, we have. And I'm like, but doesn't usually come as strong, but when it does come in, it's like, I wonder if we astral travel so much, because again, when astral traveling or going into like to sleep and you're doing a lot of dream work, there's one question that I have, even when we were talking about earlier today, if it's possible to try time travel to the past or to time travel into the future. Now, time traveling to the past does sound like a probable thing that could happen, but to the future is another. And I wonder if we unconsciously just already are on the path that we're supposed to be on. We're so aligned that like when it happens, you're just like, oh, we knew this. We've known this I'm sorry, I'm holding a selenite like thing in my hand. Sorry. It came out of nowhere. I forget my point. Yes, so we astral travel so much that when we astral travel to the future, when we retrograde back into the present, it's almost as if like, I don't know, perhaps like we do these like intuitive like checkpoints as to like, okay, when we get to this place, then we're gonna start to like have it be so broken up to pieces, because again, I feel like when one experiences deja vu, it's in bits and pieces, and then you're stuck in those days of like, did I intend this to happen, or is it like, I'm not sure what your position on this like controversial, you know, belief stance is. That is this fated, or has it been so fated that like, oh, I almost intuitively knew that I was going to be here, or this was already going to happen?
See, you brought up something I didn't even really like ponder to think about, but I mentioned synchronicities because I told you I went over to Grundle's Awakening Spirit yesterday, and a gentleman came in, and I looked at him, and he's talking about like his life and things happening, and then I get this message, and I was like, I had to relay it to him. I was like, you're a traveler. Not like traveler, like let me like pack the bag, you know, and like I'm just gonna be jet setting. Like, no, actual traveler, like different dimensions, you know, different times and space, things that I can't even like wrap my brain around. So I think personally for me, maybe I don't give myself enough credit. It could be that I can, or I don't realize that I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what's interesting, so I was telling you, we're walking through this mall, and I was like, you know, showing you places of where I used to work and not work. It happened one time where I used to work for a swimsuit place that was open all year round, and it's no longer there. But I remember when I got the job, I was there, and I was having like one of those like points in my life of like, well, I moved back to Houston. I didn't really get all the things that I thought I was going to complete before I moved back. Like I didn't know, like I found myself here, but it was kind of like starting this whole new life again. But but Fred and I were still together, my husband, and like trying to start a life. So, so I'm going through the rack and kind of color coordinating the suits, the tops and the bottoms. And I stop for a second because I'm like, I've had this feeling that I've been here before. So maybe not like the ideal place that I wanted to be working in at that point, you know, but like it happened. But I have read, and I do truly believe that there are some people, when they do know themselves enough, what they do know that they are capable of and what they can do. There are people, just as I said, is like the person I spoke with yesterday, that he is a traveler, but knowing the gift and how to use it, and you can bend it and manipulate that energy, and putting things in place to happen the way that they do, traveling back and forward. I took and I do want to get this book when it comes out, but it was a lady from the Morrigan retreat that I took last month. She is going to be doing how you can do manipulations of the energy magic inside dream work. Does that not sound like you're kind of like changing things also too? But I mean, it could be how I interpret it. But I mean, but you're doing magic in dream work is one way.
I would love to take this class because even she has mentioned, this person that's going to have this class has mentioned, oh, you do that all the time. You even do it without even you knowing. I'm like, you got me, gal. You got me. Also, what's also very fascinating with dream work in specific is that, like, let's just say for a period of time, I've been smoking marijuana. I live in California where it is legalized on a recreational level. It's not on a federal level in the United States, but it is legal where I live. Mm-hmm. What I've noticed is that when I typically prefer to smoke. I go through periods of not smoking and smoking and not smoking and smoking. But when I don't smoke, my dreams come back and I find that, like, I'm able to access the Akashic records in a way where it's like, even when I'm channeling, or let's just say even before I go to bed, or let's just say, for instance, I'm like, I'm tired. I think I need a nap. Or perhaps instead of a nap, I just meditate. So what I do is I put on, like, frequencies at a certain, like, tone or a pitch, and I just have them in my ear. I have my earphones in. I lay down. I don't say anything. I ease myself there. But there is a moment when you are in between consciousness, which is right here, and the unconscious. And it's like this purgatory sort of place where you're right in between. And when you're right in between, it's when you realize that you're not quite asleep and you're not quite awake, but you're in those in-betweens where you can, like, pick up on, and I even myself pick up on, like, Susie talking, or like someone from the other realms trying to get my attention. I've actually had moments in my room where I had a candle lit and it was burned down my house. But if it weren't for the tagging of my legs and reminding me, like, get up, wake up, like, something's happening, then, like, I wouldn't been as quite aware to, like, turn off that fire or redirect that fire in a way where it didn't burn out my house. Anyways, when I'm there, it's like a restorative place where I'm able to recharge my own energy and recalibrate it where it's at a neutral, but then able to sort of ask myself questions as to, let's just say, if I'm reading cards for myself, ask a particular question and be like, hey, guide, ancestor, angel, spirit, etc. What am I supposed to do with something, or even asking a particular question for someone else? And sometimes, most of the time, I actually get an answer for it. Or let's just say, like, for instance, I have, like, a tarot reading and I tend to astral travel before. Never met this person. I'm having a phone call conversation and I'm giving someone a reading. Even before then, I have to prepare my own vessel so that I can clear and recalibrate. And as I'm recalibrating, open up the channels in a way where, like, okay, I'm rested. The channels are open. The doors are open. They don't have any logs. So when I get out of that meditation, if I deliver a reading, then I'm able to, like, I guess, pick up on, like, I feel like you need to hear this. Or, oh, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a kind of a weird question? And then it just comes and it comes and it comes. But I find that if I don't ask to travel before I give my readings, then, like, I'm not as able to, like, come in contact with the Akashic records at hand. But even for myself, like, sometimes I don't even need to take a nap. I just needed to astral travel, and I wake up, like, the moment that, like, the recording, the YouTube video of whatever was the frequency at play for the 3 hours I had it set for, or maybe even 2 hours, it stops, jump out of my body, like, oh my God, like, you're coming out of water and you're like, I can breathe. But again, it's not that you hold on to the information that you're seeking. It's sort of like it attaches itself to your DNA, so that when you come to that crossroad, you're like, B, take option B, and you don't even know why you're doing it, but you're like, take the second option, do not take the first option, take the second option. And then later you know, come into a place where you're like, how did I know that? How did I know that I was going to be here at this time?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, it always helps. I also find that like when I miss somebody, and perhaps this is just because I've learned this from having an experience with psychedelics where I was able to telepathically communicate with my friend, but she had asked me, what's wrong? Because I was starting to cry, and she was like, what's wrong? Like, oh, I just really miss my friend. And I don't know what prompted me to say this to her, but she said, well, why don't you just call him? My friend lives in Europe. I live in California. And she's like, why don't you just call him? And I'm like, I can't. And I didn't know how to formulate the words to describe, like, I don't have to. I don't have to call this person on the phone to let them know that I'm thinking of them, because I had felt in that moment that I had like unlocked something in my third eye where I was able to like send that message by just being in that state of, in that dimension. But also I've realized that even in my own dream work and astral travel, that if I want to talk to someone and I've been meaning to talk to this person because life gets hectic, life gets really out of, you know, disarray, things pop up, unexpected things pop up, but yet you still have them in your like, in your subconscious, always thinking of them. I always receive a phone call from the particular person I'm always talking about or thinking of. And I know, I'm like, I don't have to do anything. Actually, I could ease myself into meditation, send the message, and somehow it's like, oh, I was just thinking of you today. I'm like, really? Doesn't surprise me, because I had already sent those messages out into the ether while being in that in-between world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everyone like does it differently. I can even do it like, you can even do it in a park where there's like a whole bunch of people out there. But again, it's a muscle that you have to try to train yourself to like get to a neutrality, or like, for instance, like get to like be like selenite, just completely neutralize, clean, nothing. It's just being in that state of mind for so long and practicing and practicing and practicing it to the point where things start to like make sense. And then if you do it enough, it might even help with like, you know, tarot work, or even like, I don't know, psychic awareness. But I encourage everyone else to do it, because in the end, like, I know that I do it all the time without even me like knowing I do it, but it's only because I practiced how to meditate without having that guided meditation voice, because I don't like that voice. It's like, I'm like, hey, I got it. I know this is the time that I'm supposed to like let go, but like, if you could just stop talking, I could get there. And I practice it so much that like, I often get asked, how do you meditate without being guided? And I'm like, girl, you do it certain point, you go in there and you come back, and you go in there and you come back. It's almost as if like going into like a time machine where you're like, all right, let me just access this random access memory from the hard drive so that I can remember. Or even going within the intent of like practicing the vibration of it and then going there to receive the answer that you're looking for. But I just do it because I know that I can't be in two places at the same time. I just know that if I can't do that and I really want to be around this person's energy, I start to like ignite what they feel like to me so that they can eventually come my direction. I'm not conjuring anyone to come my way, but also tapping into like what this person feels like to me. Like when I first met you 2 weeks ago, I was like, maybe that's why I was doing it last night. I don't know. I was like, oh my God, how did Gwen feel like? She felt like this. And then I start, you know, trickling down the emotions of like, all right, now just sit there, stay there, don't say anything. And then your body becomes so weightless, but also to the point where you can't even move, that you start to hear like messages come to you left and right. And like, again, like, what's the number one thing that everyone, gurus, or even like monks tell you like, oh, you having a problem? Go meditate. Go clear your mind. You'll get the answer. Go clear your mind. Also, if you recalibrate that way, it's so much easier to release all of the astral baggage so that you can able to jump higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. But again, with every muscle, you have to work it out in order to do that. I can only speak from my own experience because I know that by feeling, emotions have always been a thing for me where I was always told that you're too emotional or you feel too much. And I think that it's my superpower so that I can access a certain nostalgic memory of a person or a place and then take myself there so that I can be able to astral travel, because I don't know those who don't have nostalgia or memories like floating around within them so that they can do that, because I know a lot of people tend to like not be so nostalgic and always look into the future, but again, in order to access the future, what does your Akashic record say? Where does all these bits of information that we've had like locked in us for some time, even like people that you've never met before, and you always feel like, whoa, I feel like I've known you. And it's like, yes, it's obvious that we have known each other. How did we get here? And I think that sometimes we unconsciously know that we've been there. But again, when you're in that astral plane, like you can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
You can, or if you're feeling lonely, you're like, I really want a friend right now. But I don't know who this friend looks like. I don't know what this friend is like at all, but I can feel those emotions that I know this person is. And then somehow, some way you manifested your destiny, bitch. Like you got a friend 2 weeks later or something, you know?
You know, it's funny you were talking about like that of like, I need a friend right now kind of thing. I remember specifically telling you, it kind of started out like with one dream that you told me about, but I won't get into like too much specific details, but a party. And I remember telling you about like one of the one dreams I had, it was regarding a party and everybody had a twin. But little like did I know, like thinking about like the meaning behind it and really kind of like processing things over, it was kind of like, little did I know I was going to meet somebody that I was going to have like that connection with, even though we weren't like actually looking the same, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's insane, but again, it's not impossible. And it's an awesome gift to have. The only other thing I was thinking of is even respecting that ability, just like with anything else that we do when we tap into some sort of source, and respecting it, because that's how a lot of people can kind of get in with like psychic attacks too.
No, you're right. No, it's true.
Because I felt comfortable, granted, with you guys and stuff, but y'all saw if the wall needed to come up, a wall would need to come up. And George, like, I always feel very protected with my mother and George and ancestors behind me. And so, and I'll tell you, like I told y'all over there, it's like, I'm a lucky son of a gun, period. So, so when that happened, when I said that, I mean, there have been times where I thought, man, this really could have been worse. But there's times, yes, fear will step in, but I try to like live without the hesitation. Granted, like I still have to have common sense and like use, but I do even feel like at times, even when with my dream state, like guides, angelic protection, anything else that I am working with, if they are here to help and protect, they help me in that dream state too. And if I don't want you in, they won't let you in. So, but knowing when to have like those shields up. And I have heard stories of that before, people just being like, I was either doing meditation work or I was dreaming, and they reached out to that other person and they'd say, you were in my head last night. And they were like, yeah, I was. And it's like, you need to get out of there. I told you you were not welcome and you cannot be here. So yeah. So
or even Or even just imagine yourself. I mean, even speaking of like psychic attack, like again, like the reason why folks like put wards in their house, because sometimes when you astral travel, you can get to a place where you're like, do I remember how to get there in my car? And if you remember how to get to that place in your car, all you got to do is pretend you're driving that car to that place, and you're driving up there, you're going up the door, opening up the door, you're doing things, you're seeing what's around, and you get familiar with the place.
Yeah.